Hello everyone, and welcome to the this session of KnolBytes, wherein we share with you all the industry happening and how we can tackle the ongoing ID challenges. Today, I've got with me Vikas Hazrati. Vikas is the CEO with Knoldus. Thanks, Vikas, for joining. And today, basically, we're going to discuss about the ID challenges. We have got a few questions lined up for Vikas to get his views on, and especially during the current COVID period. So, Vikas, my first question to you is, as we are going through this COVID-19 situation, what are the challenges that you are hearing, from the global organization in enterprises in the current times? And what are the digital efforts that you think can be put in place to solve for those business problems?
Right, Ajay. First, thank you for having me here. And as you correctly said, that the industry as a whole, we are going through very challenging times as a part of this COVID situation. Luckily for a lot of organizations, especially in the IT sector, we were kind of ready to work in a remote mode most of the time. So that is why we see a less impact on this sector. However, generally with all the different enterprises that we are working with, so as an organization, as you know, that we work with retail, we work with finance, we work with fintech, we work with banking, insurance, so, like hospitality. There have been significant challenges, but each of them have been very industry specific. So some of our clients, especially in the hospitality sector, they have been the hardest hit, as you would imagine. But I would say that the current situation, Atul, is just an escalation of some underlying problems that a lot of these industry organizations were facing, no matter what. And that is one of the reasons that, almost a few years back, when this entire digital transformation started as a journey, the idea was that how do we start digitally transforming the organizations? Now, what has happened now is that just like, when we do agile software development, all the problems, they bubble up pretty fast. So similarly, with this COVID situation, some of those problems have bubbled up pretty fast, but the problems were already there. Some of the challenges, as you said, that we are currently dealing with, or we were always dealing with, was the fact that a lot of these IT organizations or the enterprises which had these IT departments who were trying to digitally transform the organizations, they were still stuck with issues like, a lot of islands of information. There was a lot of disconnect between various systems which were present, and there was no central strategy to work on them. Another bigger challenge was the fact that the organizations as such, digital transformation currently is being used as a buzzword, as you know, and a lot of people, they keep talking about it. But generally, there are four pieces to it, or, four parts in which we try to look at it. So there is something called the business process transformation. Then we call something the business domain transformation or the business model transformation. And then it's the organizational transformation. So generally, a lot of organizations, they get into the foray and say that, hey, we have to transform our organization. Well, that is, good to say, but that involves a lot of mindset change. So there are two major pieces that we see that the organizations are working on. Either they are working on the business process transformation, or they completely take organizational transformation into account. I just, quickly in 2 minutes try to describe what each of these mean.
Sure.
When we talk about business process, that is, we are changing or making more efficient one of the process with which we are doing our business. Say, for example, if you are delivering a pizza, and this is what Domino's did, when they said that we are delivering a pizza, they actually made sure that how does that process of me online ordering a pizza and finally getting it delivered to my doorstep, how can they improve the customer experience in that? So that is the business process transformation, in which there is a process that we are already running, but then how do we transform it in a way so that it can be much better and it gives a better customer experience? Then, when we talk about the business model transformation is where we actually bring in a new way of delivering value. Say, for example, we used to go out to movie halls to watch movies, but when Netflix started streaming service, that is a business model transformation. Now the value was getting created by, streaming to your home rather than actually you stepping out of the home. And that is even, like more real in the COVID situation now. Similarly, the third part of it is, like the business domain transformation. And this is important. This is important because this allows a lot of organizations to start looking at what are the other areas that they can get into. By this, what I mean is that, say, for example, Amazon, like everybody knows about the Amazon story when they started with the bookstore and, like whatnot. And then eventually today, they are one of the biggest cloud providers as well. Now, how did that domain transformation happen? Right from e-commerce, how did they get into, like the AWS space? So that is a domain transformation. A lot of organizations that we work with, Atul, they are pretty good at certain things that they are doing. For example, like one of the biggest cruising industry giants that we work with, they built a system, a payment system, which would allow them to route payments efficiently so that they can save on the routing cost. Because, like say, for example, you are paying with a credit card, or I'm paying, like with an online transfer or whatnot. So there are various ways in which the routing happens. And how can you actually, like look at that as a problem that you have solved for yourself and bundle it out into a domain which, like other organizations can use. So this cruising giant, they actually bundled their payments product and they, like released it to other industry, like stalwarts to start using. So eventually, like this payment solution by itself saved over, like $10 million for them on an yearly basis. And now they're generating more revenues by offering that as a product. So that is more like a domain transformation. So, so these are the three parts. And the fourth one, which most of the organizations talk about, is the organizational business transformation, in which, like it takes everybody. It is more like a top-down approach in which the CIO, CDO, CEOs, they have to start mandating this. And a lot of effort goes into the mindset change, like the agile way of thinking and making sure that they are transforming their ecosystem according to the needs, right from, like right across all the departments. So I think generally, Atul, the problem that we see is that a lot of organizations, they are confused where to start and where to go. But this is not easy. Like digital transformation has to be thought of as a top-down holistic approach, and only then it can be driven. So these are some of the challenges that we see, like wherever we go.
All right, great. I think these are some, thanks for sharing that perspective, Vikas. I think, so I think, so what you're saying is basically, digital transformation as a journey, there's no one cookie cut solution, and then you are actually layering it, structuring it in four different dimensions. And you're saying that, be it on a customer experience side or, business model transformation or a domain transformation, or if there is a larger transformation initiative that is being run, which is being done through the organizational transformation. But ultimately, what you're saying is that what matters is the business value, which is being driven through all this, efforts. So, given that context, Vikas, how how this is keeping all this in mind? If how the, let's say, if the problem is identified and the IT, the requisite, the technology solution is need to be put in place. The general notion in the industry is that there's a lot of higher failure rate than the success rate. How do you think that could be can be tackled? How you're tackling it with the clients that we have in the organization?
Right. So yeah, you're right that there is definitely a very high percentage of failure rates just because of us not understanding what really needs to be done. And again, we are not saying that like we are the like the experts and we can just go into any domain and like transform that. But there are certain proven points or a certain blueprint that needs to be followed. And this blueprint stems from the fact that, what is that we are trying to achieve? Of course, we are trying to, grow our business. We are trying to improve the value that we are delivering to the customers. We are trying to make customer experience better. We are trying to, make a holistic approach for the customer that he can, go in and access our value through any device anywhere in the world. So there are various parameters on which, these things get defined. But generally, the approach that we take, Atul, is that we try to understand the business value that the organization is trying to get to. And then we try to break it down into measurable values that can be delivered on an incremental basis. So at a lot of enterprises, we follow the SAFE approach, the scale agile approach. And in that, we break it down into something that we call the product increments. What are we trying to really achieve? And, how do we measure that? Because if you're trying to achieve something and you do not have a measurable part to that, then in that case, you do not know whether you're getting there or not. So we try to define the product increments on the basis of what needs to be done. How do you measure that? And then we deliver it according to that. So generally the approach taken is that we start with, like the organizational mindset in mind, but we go down to the business process level first, saying that, okay, let us transform this business process. See the value that is coming out of that. If this business process transformation is successful, how do we take it to the business model level? Then how do we take it from there to the business domain level and then to the organization level? So there is a structured way in which we need to go about it. And as an organization, what we have done is that over a period of time, we have built something that we call the Knoldus Digital Transformation Platform, like the KDP. And there are going to be more details on our website as well. But generally, it is a lot of technology. It is a lot of processes built into the platform. A lot of templates built into the platform, which allow us to make this digital transformation journey a little more predictable, more better in terms of the value that it can be gauged on, and how to run it effectively over the months and the years.
All right, great. Now I think these are great insight, because I think for a moment you look like speaking more on the business side of it. So you're saying basically it's a very structured approach of looking at the organizational design, looking at how what were the business problems, and then you try to see how those problems could be baked into the solution. And then from a solution perspective, you're saying that while obviously there are a lot of models being adopted, but it has to be looked at with a more focused approach, with a measurable, something that you can measure, and then maybe integrate all the components within the approach to ensure that you've got a successful IT delivery. So well, with that, because I think that takes me to the other question in this session is that you have been focusing more on the reactive products and AI, and obviously compared to the ERP products, obviously these are more newly emerging technologies, as well as this also provide a lot of customization, and therefore it can effectively address the business problem. Can you just talk about some of that and how that's been leveraged optimally to deliver the digital solution in an accelerated pace?
Yeah, absolutely. See, some of the underlying technologies which are very relevant for digital transformation and situation like this. As I said, one of the challenges that a lot of organizations feel is that there is a lot of siloed information, and there are islands of information that need to be connected together. One of the approaches which is going to be very helpful, and this is irrespective of whoever is doing the digital transformation, is thinking in terms of a platform strategy and not in terms of a product strategy. So whenever we get in, we just try to understand, again, it's easier said than done. But right from thinking in terms of the platform strategy for one particular business area that we are engaging in, that makes a lot of difference. So what we do is that we try to identify that, okay, what is the core platform going to be? And by the core platform, what I mean is that there are going to be situations in which you'd say that, hey, we have to be on the cloud, right? So that could be a decision that you are taking. Now, the core platform takes those decisions into account that, okay, what is the kind of cloud infrastructure that we are going to be on? What is the kind of architectural strategy that we'll be using? Is it going to be a microservices-based strategy? Is it going to be, some other strategy? What is the kind of DevOps strategy that we are going to be having? What is the security parameters that we'll be, looking into? So this is going to form your, pretty much your core layer on which your business products will start getting built. And so once you have this defined, then you start defining your, the business products on top of that. And on top of that is your customer journey or the user journey, which is interacting with these business products. Now, when we define the layers in this particular fashion, what happens is that now we are making a reusable platform strategy available to other business units within the same organization as well. What it really enables is faster development, a synchronized, homogeneous architectural platform across the organization, and it allows a lot of business domains to start, using a common platform, and we can, excel on that. Other things that we bring in along with this is something that we call the API first strategy. for any business product that you are building, we need to think in terms of, like, okay, how is this going to be interacting with other business, departments? How is this going to be possibly interacting with, external vendors? How is this going to be possibly be interacting with, if I open source it, or if I, expose a part of the API, what is the innovation that I can expect from that? Now, none of that is going to happen if we do not think about the API strategy. So every business domain product that we build on the core platform thinks first in the API strategy format that, okay, how is this going to get connected to the rest of the world? So that is another thing that, is a thought process that we try to bring in every engagement. Apart from that, we heavily, talk about the reactive microservices, and generally, without going too technical, but what reactive means is that how do we react to changes in everything that is happening? So
Sure.
Change in load, if you are accessing the website on a Christmas Eve versus when you are accessing it on a low period, your experience should not differ. So how do we auto scale it? How do we take care of the loading, scaling, and the security requirements and whatnot? So the microservices then enable you to work in departments, in closed units who can then interact with each other. So that is the reactive microservices part that we bring in, and of course, on top of all of this is the machine learning and AI. A lot of machine learning is, industry-wide, it has been shown that machine learning by itself has resulted in a 15% cost saving for the organizations who have been using it effectively. So that is a significant dent that we can make into the enterprise as soon as we start bringing in some of the machine learning capabilities into the enterprise.
Great. So I think it's quite interesting to actually understand, because as you peel the overall digital methodology through the layered approach of saying that it's a platform, and then you actually look at the business domain, and that's what sort of drive the customer experience, and then everything sort of revolves around the API strategy in a way that it becomes more scalable, so that tomorrow if there are new technologies which are available to where the business can drive more benefit, then it can take benefit of that, and basically it's not that you have done with some solution and you're done with that. So basically, with all these models, you are able to actually make it more scalable, and therefore you make it really make it digitize in the true sense. And then AI and ML on top of it, which actually brings more of business solution, and as well as more optimization, as well as more business growth. So that's quite interesting. Right. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you when you were replaying it back, one thing that I thought that I should mention and highlight is the fact that whenever we define this platform strategy, again, we are not doing it organization wide, because even though we wanted it organization wide, it is not the easy way to do it that way, and it is not the right way to do it that way as well, because you cannot just boil the ocean, as they say. So whenever we start working with one particular business department, we define the platform strategy for them, and then we enable other business departments to start coming onto this platform. So for a lot of organizations that we have worked with, especially in the banking and finance arena, healthcare, this is how we have approached it, that there is one particular department that embraces this platform strategy. The business applications are built on top of that, followed by the user journeys on top of that. And then this platform is passed on, or other departments, they are motivated to start using this platform. Once they see that, hey, this is a platform on which my main problems, alerting and monitoring, are already handled. This is a platform on which all the logging and, all the infra is already handled. I know the cloud that I need to be on. This is already handled by the platform. So then they start embracing it. And this is what has happened across various enterprises for us. For one of the biggest enterprises that we are working with, especially in the high tech and the storage space, now they have started calling this the project Harmony. By that, what they mean is that we started with a single department of this particular enterprise. We started building the platform. Once the other departments they started seeing the success of this platform, then they started embracing it. And now they call it the Project Harmony, where they want to, bring this platform as a ubiquitous platform across the organization, and every department would, be basing their products on top of this. So that is the approach that comes in. But again, before I sound like that, we do it for the entire organization. No, we start with a beachhead and then we take it from there.
Wow, great. Those are very interesting insights, Vikas. So I think thanks for sharing your perspective, and to everyone, please do share comments in terms of how do you like this episode and what do you want to hear more. Please do comment. And thanks, Vikas, for being part of the KnolBytes. And we'll talk pretty soon on some other topics. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Atul. It was a pleasure. And stay safe and stay productive. And we're talking soon. Thank you.
Thank you.